everybody. Welcome to another edition of Biology in the Basement. Special edition, Bass in Your Face. That was Simple Simon. He's my simple bass. Yesterday I played good old Fancy Pants. You can see why each one is named the way they are. One is simple, and one is kind of fancy. So anywho, here we are for a quick review. The purpose of this video is just to get through this immune system, hit all the important points as quick as possible so that you have all the necessary information to send me your objectives and finish that last page of review. So let's get this immune system done. But I want you guys to understand this so that you're ready for... Well, I guess there's no regents, but you're ready for the further understanding of the immune system. It's just helpful overall, as well as, of course, due to the sickness of the day, as the boys call it. So, let's get started with our fact of the day, and that is that Lake Superior, right, one of the Great Lakes, holds 10%. That's 10% of all fresh water, as well as 6,000 shipwrecks, right? Being such a large body of water, the swells get pretty big, and some ships have been known to capsize without any warning whatsoever. So watch out. Okay, so we're going to go through this, like I said, as quickly as possible. So pitter patter, let's get at her. All right, the immune system is to give you immunity, right? Resistance to pathogens. 10 to 15 million pathogens are being breathed in, coming through cuts in every orifice of your body. So you've got to protect yourself. We're focusing mostly on the pathogen side that cause disease, right? We already got the genetic side, right? What are pathogens? Pathogens are those disease-causing agents, okay? And they can be spread through regular contact or through another animal. The big joke has been, turns out that farts can also spread coronavirus. Luckily, you've got underwear and pants on, hopefully. You're not just walking around bare butt in public, so hopefully that's not a big concern. Vectors spread disease through usually insects like ticks, mosquitoes, or other arthropods, I should say, actually. But we'll get to that. We've already been through that. First line of defense, right, is where you are just fighting things off non-specifically for the first 2 rounds, whether it's your natural body's defenses or it's second line of defense, that inflammation, the inflammatory response. Those are both, as you can see, non-specific. And then, of course, the third line of defense is where we have to call in the tinkerers, right? We used our muscle to inflame with our big white blood cells, but now we have to get the scientists, the tinkerers, the special forces involved, right? The B cells are creating antibodies, right? They're the ones that are manufacturing some kind of cool defense. Or you've got your special forces killers that are going after those specifically identified cells. And that's how we get our immunity, through exposure. Okay, so that falls under active immunity, right, where you're exposed. Another way that you can get active immunity, right, this is what's called the immune response. Active immunity, the other fancy name here is the immune response, where you can have a vaccine. A vaccine is a small dose, weakened, dead, whatever it takes, the smallest amount of that pathogen to trigger that immune response to give you active immunity, right? And usually this is permanent. Sometimes you'll have to go for a booster, especially when you go to college. Passive immunity is when you do not create the antibodies. The most common form of this is through mother's milk. Mother's milk contains lots of antibodies to protect the baby while it is being attacked by these 15 million microbes every day with very few defenses. So that's how that happens, okay? So like we say, a vaccine contains the pathogen. Most of them are injections. Now they have the fancy nasal sprays, but they are a weakened or dead version of that pathogen that has been injected or inhaled into the body in some way, right? Inoculation. Back in the day, here's another interesting fact of the day. Back in the day, you know how they used to vaccinate or inoculate people? They just had a rag that had the disease on it, and they just passed it around the neighborhood, and you just rub your kid with the rag, and it had just enough on it where it would get a little itchy, scratchy, and then it would fight it off, and then they were protected. So it's a lot better these days. Okay, so let's break it down. This diagram seems to be the best. So when you really want to visualize what the different parts of what your body can do and, of course, can't do, you can maybe understand it this way. So, of course, we've got the first line of defense, which just gives you natural immunity, right? These weak little bacteria and particles and things like that, they can't make it past the first line of defense. I've already gone over what an awesome fortress our body is, right? But if they are pretty tough, then we kick on the immune response. The immune response is what gives us active immunity, usually good for life. That's why you don't get certain diseases again, right? We usually have the chicken pox and then the shingles, and then I get to start talking about how it's all herpes, and then I laugh. And anyways, we can get this usually through normal exposure, and then our body goes through one of those two ways of the third line of defense, or we can get a vaccine. The green side, right, just means it's active, right? We hit the go on that one. Passive here means that we did not produce the antibodies. They came from an outside source, and so they will not be permanent. Of course, as the baby develops, it develops its own immunity, its own defenses, its own B cells, its own antibodies. And of course, through a battery of vaccinations as a child, it will develop other B cells. So that is how we can get these immunity jump-started in our babies. And so that's it. Okay, so you need to do for me, cut and paste 28 through 41. 28 through 41. Cut and paste it, put it in a separate document, and share that to me. This will be your version of a take-home test. Also, H174. Okay, these are your last two assignments before we move on to skin, muscle, and Mr. Bonesy. Hopefully he won't have to take his clothes off, but you never know. Jeez, calm down, people. Calm down. We'll try to get it to happen. All right, so anyways, that's all. Please watch these videos. I know some of them are long, but they explain this in much more greater detail and importance. The immune system, I can't stress it enough. Okay, so signing off from Biology in the Basement, this is Mr. Andraco and good old Bonesy. Play us out, Andraco.